Welcome to 6 Minutes. I'm Jason Fulmore. I'm here today with Lynzie Doll, Freedom High School in Orlando, and Mike Crowder, who is the head coach at Lincoln High School up in Tallahassee. Thank you guys for joining me. We're going to be talking a little bit about women's wrestling getting sanctioned in the state of Florida. And you guys just got, I think, the vote last week, that it was approved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And, but I know this process has taken quite a long time. And Mike, you've been around for a bit and has seen this kind of evolution to this point where it actually got sanctioned last week. Can you just give us a little history of kind of what Florida's gone through?
Well, I mean, we've had girls wrestle in Florida in the boys division for a long time. Some really, really good ones, girls. I mean, there's Miriam Jenkins from Gainesville from a long time ago who ended up, I think she was even an Olympic alternate at one point. And, lots of girls, even now, I mean, Laura Stone's been a couple times state qualifier from Venice. But getting girls in their own division was a battle for a long time. One of the guys that was big for a long time was Ron Schultz, who from Nova, and pushed it. It was on the committee with me for years and years and years. And we never had the right group that was ready to say yes. And, that's a big deal in all this things that when you're dealing with the bureaucracy, you got to have the right group of administrators that feel what you're feeling and see what you're seeing, and with the country moving the way it is and the girls wrestling growing like wildfire, we realized, that we have way more girls than anybody else that was already starting. Like we have a huge number, like close to 800 already, and we have girls wrestling, girls states that are sanctioned that don't even have close to 800 yet. So, and
right.
Then, we have the right group, and then we pitched it at the right time, and there's a lot for Lynzie and these guys from Orlando that came up to help pitch it. And it made a big difference. And just having the right group there to say yes is a big deal.
So Lynzie, I'm glad that Mike actually talked about that, because while you two are two of the people who really kind of have talked about it and kind of gotten, the ball rolling and everything else, there have been a number of other players across the state that have played a huge role in this happening. And I want to make sure we recognize, I want to make sure we recognize some of their contributions to the effort. I know the coach up at Matanzas is one of them.
Mm-hmm. Coach White, yes.
So tell me a little bit about some of the other players that have been really helpful.
Well, I think the effort actually goes a lot deeper than people realize. Even people who aren't actively speaking at the meetings or putting together presentations, like the people who are just willing to step out and say, I'm going to coach these girls even if I'm not getting a stipend, or I'm going to give these girls the time of day because nobody else has yet. Like Coach Duran at South Dade, Coach White at Matanzas, Coach Adderley even at Dr. Phillips High School. And just other coaches throughout the state who at the grassroots level are supporting the girls and the girls themselves. Obviously, it takes a lot of guts to be willing to step out on a mat, oftentimes against boys. And I really feel like the majority of the effort has to go back to them, or the recognition has to go back to them, because without the 708 girls that we had this year, who knows if we would have had the momentum to make it happen.
So you guys, and I'll keep this with you, Lynzie, you guys got it sanctioned for 2021, 22. Yeah. But you didn't get it. It's not going to happen this coming year.
Right.
So what was some of the kind of response of why that happened? Because it seemed to me that you guys you had all your ducks in a row and were ready to make that happen.
Yeah, so Coach Crowder, myself, and Coach Tribbett, and a couple of other guys kind of, we did a lot of the groundwork. We were, for the most part, prepared to go into next season, but there was a concern with being able to provide coaching supplements to schools that don't already have that in place. So I think that was the main reason, plus just the process in general in Florida, which, to my understanding, we actually skipped ahead of a couple of steps. And Coach Crowder can kind of speak on that a little bit better than I can. Yeah.
Okay. So Mike, you guys, so one of the things I'm really interested in is everybody I've talked to in Georgia or Tennessee, they kind of do it a little bit differently. Like Tennessee, the girls really only wrestle the girls and aren't allowed to wrestle the guys if they wrestle postseason for the girls. Georgia, that's not the case, and the girls have an opportunity to wrestle in either, the boys or the girls state championship when it comes to that time. What do you guys know what Florida will look like?
Yeah, we do. So especially at least in the beginning. In the beginning, during regular season, the girls can wrestle boys or they can wrestle in a girls division depending on what's offered at each event. And that'll account for, places like where we are, where everything's so spread out and we may not have as many girls events. But in the postseason, they will not be allowed to wrestle. Girls will have to wrestle in the girls division in the postseason. And that's the way we do it for all individual sports. Even cross country, golf, swimming. A lot of times the girls can compete in the boys divisions during the regular season. But then once we get to the end, they have to be split up. And it'll be split up probably in the beginning. It'll probably just be 4 regions and 16 districts like it is normally. It'll be 1 division at first, even though I think we'll have way more than 100 teams to start off with. But they'll want to see how that plays to end the first cycle. And then if they think we're big enough after that, they'll split it up. But I'm not sure if we'll get to that point very quickly. We are going to wrestle the state tournament at the same time. We already have the people in place. Rick. Rick and Jim Bird have already got it worked out where they can run it together at the same time. It was an issue. Like really, we were in position to start now, but because of how things usually have to work with big school districts, it slows us down. Like I know that, and it really, really stinks for those girls who are going to be seniors this year, but we were handcuffed by what they did. And again, we jumped ahead because really, even the volleyball season that got approved, we got a huge bonus because we're technically not our own sport. We're a division of ahead a whole year because of that little technicality, which was awesome for us because I would have expected them to make us, a recognized sport for a year. And that was a huge bonus to us. It went really, really fast.
So Lynzie, I think you talked about it earlier that, the boots on the ground, the coaches that are really kind of making these things happen, within the schools, reaching the girls and those sorts of things. Have you had any resistance from coaches that are like, I'm not 100% sure about the girls wrestling, those sorts of things? And how does that conversation kind of go?
I don't think very many people are overtly against girls wrestling anymore because I think there would be quite a bit of backlash at this point. But when I was in school and my first maybe 2 years down here, the conversation would come up on like social media every now and then, and you'd see some super negative comments. And I won't get like super into detail because some of them were pretty nasty, but you would see a lot of the negativity back then. But in the last couple of years, I think we've picked up enough momentum to where if anybody really is against girls wrestling, they're not going to say it out loud. So
right. But they're not going to be kind of advocates or anything like that. So how do you kind of get them to be kind of, if they're a little bit uncertain, like, is it an education process or what does that kind of look like?
Yeah, so I think it kind of looks different for everybody. Now obviously, like I've never had to worry about that because I am a girl. I'm obviously a very like strong supporter of girl sports. But I feel like a lot of male coaches are kind of reserved at first just because, it's new territory. You've got some more old-fashioned coaches that maybe just are stuck in like an old mindset where they're like, well, no, like girls shouldn't wrestle, girls don't belong in contact sports. And I think a lot of times what it takes is one just tough girl to come along and kind of change their mind and show them that, that's an old way of thinking and it's not true.
Yeah. Mike, do you have anything to add? Oh, I'm sorry, Lynzie.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Go ahead.
Mike, do you have anything to add to that, or?
I think the biggest worry for a lot of guys, and I've had some really tough girls in our room. They were way ahead of their time. Laura Maven was a killer for us, but she refused to let me treat her any different than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that was a tough one because she was the first girl we ever had that actually stayed more than a couple days. And, you know, but I still think that a lot of coaches, especially male coaches, are probably going to be unsure about how to attack it because, you know, traditionally how we coach wrestling, it's a lot of contact between coach and athlete a lot of times. And that's probably going to be the biggest trick is how do we overcome that? You know, what can we do to make that work? If you don't have a female in the room, you know, we have a female in the room. So it makes it easy for us because Jazz can wrestle any girl we have, you know, and show technique and things like that, like we would normally do. I think that's probably the biggest holdback for males is that, well, how do I do that? You know, and I think the Orlando area is probably better off than us because, I mean, when you were there, we had tons of girls teams, you know, all over the place. So like guys like Tribbett and Bird, they've had tons of girls and had girls teams before. So they kind of are more, they know what to do better than the rest of us. So I think that's going to come with, all right, some education. All right, this is how you have to attack this.
Well, speaking of education, Wrestle Like a Girl has a lot of educational like presentations and documents and stuff for coaches looking to start a girls program or coaches who aren't sure how to approach the one or two girls that they have on their team. And Joan Fulp with, I guess, Wrestle Like a Girl and USA Wrestling.
Right.
She's got some really good stuff too that I can send to you if you want to get that information out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I know many of those resources, but I think, you know, the more resources that we can share with different people, the more that they'll begin to kind of, I guess, develop a little bit of a, it won't be as foreign to them of a concept, and they'll figure out how to make that happen. So this coming year, it will not be sanctioned. Will it look pretty similar to what it looked like last year, Lynzie?
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out a little bit.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So last year or this next year won't be sanctioned. So will it kind of look very similar to like it's looked in the past years as far as, you know, the girls wrestling their own state tournament? It's not sanctioned, wrestling throughout the year, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so as far as anyone knows right now, the state tournament will be held at Dr. Phillips High School, which is in Orlando. Everything is pretty much going to stay the same, but I am looking forward to a good bit of growth because now that we have the go-ahead, now that it's pretty widely known that girls wrestling will be an official Florida sport in 2021, I think a lot more coaches are going to be willing to go out and recruit and find girls in their schools, and I think there's going to be a good bit of growth, which will then help increase the level of competition in Florida too.
That's awesome. Yeah. So any last things? Coach Crowder, you have anything else to add?
No, I'm excited for how this is all going to play out. It just, again, with the process in general, it was faster than I expected. And I'm excited to see what happens this year with growth and, you know, even at our school, because we got tons of girls that want to wrestle. They just weren't sure about wrestling the boys in the end of the season. But they're ready to go.
Very cool. Coach Doll, anything else to add?
No, not really. I just want to take a second and kind of thank Robbie Lindeman with the FHSAA for being patient and first of all supporting us throughout this whole thing because he was definitely the man. And also thank Coach Crowder for being patient with my endless texts and phone calls and my impatience. I cried quite a few times on the phone. So yeah, I think we had a great system, and I'm happy it's finally official. So.
Fantastic. Well, I hope to see you guys back on the mats hopefully very soon. Yeah, fingers crossed, and hopefully see you guys this fall. So take care.
Thank you, Jason.